What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Science Fictionary podcast. I'm Andrew, and I'm here with Marisha.
Hello. Oh, Bruce doesn't need her headphones, does she?
No, you don't need headphones.
It's just us.
You can wear them if you want to.
They don't make me cuter.
I mean, you can still wear them. So what are we going to talk about?
Guardians, right?
We are mostly going to talk Guardians. We got a couple of things we might kind of talk about for a brief moment before we get fully into Guardians. Also, just to give people a few minutes to see if anybody pops into the chat before we get going too deep on any other stuff. So we were going to do this end of last week, and we ran out of time because Marisha ran off to New Orleans again.
I did. Well, we were going to do it the week before, and David's computer died, and Marisha was tired.
Yep. So Ubaldo has popped in the chat. Hey man, thanks for jumping in. Glad to have you here. Hopefully some other people will come in. We're going to be talking Guardians of the Galaxy and a few other things. I'm not too interested in going too deep in some of this stuff because we'll talk about it more when it gets here. But I did want to talk briefly while we wait to see who's going to pop in to the chat, if anybody. Have you kept up with, they showed Dial of Destiny at the Cannes Film Festival.
I did hear that.
Have you heard anything about how it went?
I have not heard anything about how it went. How did it go?
Well, I'm about to show you the Rotten Tomatoes score, which I don't put a lot of stock in, but something of this magnitude, you really hope to see something bigger.
47%.
With 36 reviews in, which is not a ton, but usually those first 30 or 40 reviews are kind of indicative of the way they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, I know they were very high on it after Cannes because there was a standing ovation for Harrison Ford.
Of course.
It was a standing ovation for Harrison Ford. Of course,
because he's Harrison Ford.
It's one, because he deserves it. Let's be honest.
Right.
His career is not gonna last forever.
Yeah.
He can't keep doing this forever. There are a lot of people younger than him that have already had to give it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to see Harrison Ford don the hat one more time.
Yeah.
But
I mean, okay, so
and I'll say up front, I'm a big fan. I like all four movies.
Mm-hmm.
I like the original three. I like Crystal Skull.
And that's what I was going to say.
Now, Crystal Skull is my least favorite of the four. But I still like it.
It has its flaws, for sure. But it's Harrison Ford in an Indiana Jones movie. Honestly, I feel like the thing that is most likely to ruin this Indiana Jones movie is not enough Indiana Jones. I feel like kind of putting emphasis on secondary characters is likely to be the thing that kills it. And I feel like that was sort of the issue with the Crystal Skull was they were really that light has personality. They were really trying to I think they were trying to cash, Shia LaBeouf is the new sort of protagonist for the Indiana Jones series.
Yeah.
I think that's
really I think that's where they thought it was going to go, and people were kind of, wow. So something's going on with our lights. That's fun. Wonder if it was all the lights or just that one.
Probably just that one. It's got.
I'm gonna have to turn it off.
It keeps doing
that. Yeah. So I mean, I agree, Ubaldo. I'm not a big review reader. There are maybe 3 or 4 people out there in the review world that I trust.
Yeah.
But I don't always agree. Even those people I don't always agree with.
Sometimes it's usually I don't usually care to read reviews till after I've seen the movie.
Yeah, 100%. I won't read any of those reviews because I don't want to go in with my opinion colored by those reviews.
And honestly, my most likely reason to read reviews is if there were things that I didn't like about it, and so I'm wondering if other people kind of had the same thought.
Yeah.
That's really.
Yeah, I don't like to read reviews ahead of a show.
No point.
One, because you're going to get spoiled on the show. But yeah.
And honestly, some movies that have just had stellar reviews, I found to be very disappointing. Like Eternals reviewed, the critics just loved it. Audience was much less excited about it. So I feel like sometimes there are a lot of things that go into, there are a lot of things that go into, so Kingdom of the Crystal Skull actually has a 77% Rotten Tomato rating.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's got 10 times as many reviews as.
It can come back. Like I said, usually those first.
Also, it was at cons.
But everybody hasn't seen it yet. So theoretically, maybe the snootiest of the critics have seen it.
I mean,
the ones that don't like action flicks.
Well, and
Cannes is not the typical kind of place for a movie like an Indiana Jones film.
I'm really surprised. It's usually more your kind of artsy movies that get released there. So I think that it may just not have been
wasn't the right crowd.
It just wasn't the right crowd.
Yeah, maybe.
Hopefully.
I hope so. I want it to be good. Like I desperately want this movie to be good.
Yeah.
And I've heard good things from people that are kind of insiders there. They've said things that are promising.
Right.
So yeah, this is not the kind of movie we normally expect to see at Cannes. So at Cannes. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to let it affect me going to see it. It's Indiana Jones. I'm super excited for that.
Right.
So we'll see with that. But it is disconcerting to look and see it, because this is not just, it's not reviewing well. Like Lucasfilm really needs a home run in the theater.
Yeah, that's true.
So out of this, even and by all accounts, this is it. This is the last Indiana Jones film. There's not any.
And that's the other thing. You wait what, 20 years to make the first sequel, and then 20 more years to make the next one. You really kind of want to end on a good note. Yeah. I'm excited. We're going to see John Rhys Davies again.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We got a lot of people coming back for this one, so that's going to be nice to see a lot of those people back on screen. So I don't know. I just wanted to kind of mention it. It's not worth fretting over. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Other news. Gosh, right before we dropped, I was online on Twitter and saw that Ray Stevenson passed away.
No, the Mississippi Squirrel.
No, that's Ray Stevens.
Oh, okay.
There's Ray Stevenson, the actor. He's actually in the upcoming Ahsoka series.
Okay, yeah, I did see that. He was one of the Warriors 3, right? Thor.
Yeah, I think he was actually. Yeah. And he's not a lot. I mean, he's a big time A-lister. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff to his credit, but I mean, he's playing a big role in the Ahsoka series, and
that's really
sad. I mean, he's only 58.
Yeah.
Then say what happened, so that's tragic. So I'm sure we'll learn more about that over the next few days. But
yeah.
Let's see. There were other things that I wanted to talk about. What were they?
It's Andrew's birthday today.
It is my birthday.
Yes, he's 27 again.
So let's talk a little bit about Disney Plus and the removal. I mean, we knew Bob Iger was going to make changes when he came back.
Yeah.
This was, granted, he's coming in and basically canceling stuff he created when he was there before.
Right.
But we'll talk on Coruscant Radio Underground when we do that about the Galactic Star Cruiser being shut down.
Right.
And I kind of wondered, because I don't know anything. I haven't been, and I never got a chance to go. I couldn't afford it anyway.
No.
Which is why it's shutting down, because middle class families can't afford it. When this is the kind of stuff that has to be affordable by the middle class.
Right.
So I was talking the other night. I was hanging out in the chat during the Scariff podcast, and Rob is a big time Disney parks person.
Mhm.
Rob was on there, and Rob, I basically said, so what will this? But can it just become like a Star Wars themed resort?
Mhm.
You know, we've got all these themed resorts. Can it just be that?
Mhm.
Which is probably what they should have done to begin with.
Yeah.
And the answer was no.
Hmm.
It's basically a concrete bunker. There's no outside room. There's no room outside to expand amenities. It's done. It's shut down. They'll probably tear it down or use it for storage or yeah.
What a shame that they didn't come up. The thing is, Disney World is so expensive already.
Well, it's getting more expensive every year.
And it gets more expensive every year. And so
thank you, Charles.
Yay.
And thanks for dropping in.
It's just, and the fact that it was like 3 times as much as a regular resort.
Oh, it was more than that. It was 2 nights. So if me and you had gone to the Star Cruiser,
okay,
you're talking $4,800 for 2 nights. Hey, we could go to Europe for a week for that. Like, it's a luxury item. It's not an item meant for middle class people. And like I said, with stuff like parks and things, these are like the middle class are generally it's always been Disney's target demographic.
Right.
They're abandoning their core demographic, and honestly, you have to be somewhat privileged to go more than once in your life.
Right. And honestly, a lot of people, I think, if they're going to drop that kind of money, want to get a little more out of it than a weekend.
We could go to Disney for a week. Like with us with 3 kids, and this was actually a bigger challenge because the biggest rooms allowed 4 people. Right. So they had already cut out
families with more
than 2 kids. They had already made it difficult because as best I could tell, for us to go, we would have had to have gotten 2 rooms, which would have just escalated the price that much more.
Yeah.
But like for a family, like you're talking $6,000 and up for 2 nights.
Right.
Yeah, that just wasn't doable. No. But we'll talk a little more. I don't honestly have a whole lot to say about it. I've talked about it on Twitter a good bit.
Except for that's too much money. And obviously we weren't the only people. When the prices first released, the consensus was, I can never afford that.
Yeah.
And honestly, even, people that I know that could theoretically afford that would rather take their family to Europe or go spend a week at Universal or 100%. Disney World.
Well, I mean, like St. Augustine, Florida is like my favorite place in the world. I can go stay in St. Augustine for probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
On $60,000.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth it. But it was struggling. It had been struggling since the start. It's going to be interesting to see. A
lot of the people who went didn't really feel like they got their $6,000 worth.
Yeah, there was the thing. It irked me to no end. There was an article from a journalist from one of the big New York magazines. It was posting about how it was worth every penny, and he's been 3 times, and it's like, you're totally out of touch. You're completely out of touch with most of America.
I feel like if you've been 3 times, then you were sponsored to go.
That's the thing. He may not even paid for all that, but
yeah, and maybe he did, but I need that kind of journalism job.
Yeah,
like, geez.
No, I can see, like, if it was just me and you, on my income, we could afford it.
Right.
Like, but
once, but
well, we could do it every year if it was just me and you.
Yeah, that's true.
But feeding 3 kids
are expensive.
Well, groceries are expensive.
Right, man. 8% my foot.
Yeah.
8% inflation.
No, my grocery bill's more than doubled. So, take that for what you will. But I wanted to talk about all these things on Disney Plus that are getting yanked off the service.
Yeah.
Mostly underperforming stuff. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand how it's beneficial to remove it.
See, that's my issue is
you own it. It's already paid for. It's on your service.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, how much does it really cost for it to be available?
Well, I mean, like obviously that costs money.
Servers or something
to store, but I mean, it's like you're talking about one of the biggest, the entertainment companies on the planet. They can afford to keep them on there, but they're mostly removing things that I kind of think they're a little bit ashamed of, or someone is. Probably Bob Iger, but most of it was underperforming. That's interesting too.
It's all about the residuals to the artists. So things like, okay, well, that framing it that way is kind of interesting. So like
how do residuals work on a streaming service anyway?
I don't know, but maybe like the show that's hosted by Kristen Bell, like the Encore, which was the one where they go through and do performances, like restage musicals that they've done in high school. The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, which was one of the ones that got pulled.
Yeah, I know both of those are. I know that's part of what's kind of going on, or I would imagine that maybe it was going to that they were going to have to pay these actors, maybe some kind of royalties or something.
Yeah. So we have talked at length about that. Marisha's part of a union in this industry as well, and they had a strike. They went on strike last year.
They didn't actually strike.
Oh, they ended it like on the eve of.
They finally signed a contract like the night before the strike was due to start. But the Screen Actors Guild, actually, their contract runs out at the same time as the Writers Guild contract runs out the end of June. So just heads up, y'all, SAG may be getting ready to strike as well, and a lot of that issue is going to be related to AIs as well.
Yeah, no, they're a big part of that is on AI. And I'm all for keeping it out of the industry. I think AI should be a tool in the writer's toolbox. There's no reason. It's not there. It's not it can't give you things you don't feed it. Like it's the first person to go out there and try to make a movie written totally by AI is going to get sued into oblivion for copyright issues. Hey, Nicole, thanks for dropping in. But yeah, the writer's strike, there's all kinds of crazy stuff, like writers talking about being given 3 days to write an 8-episode, 10-episode series.
Which is all of a sudden, a lot of the complaints that we're getting about storylines on major shows, Star Wars shows. One of the ones specifically animation seems to be a particularly big offender. And I was reading kind of a thread by someone who is a writer on Rebels, and they were talking about just kind of getting thrown in there.
Thank you, Nicole.
To wanting treatments for a whole season of a show in a weekend. And then maybe you get hired on to write, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, and that is interesting that it would be really interesting to see exactly how the writer's strike and the things getting pulled off of Disney Plus right now might be connected. Because the timing is awfully convenient.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, like I said, I looked through the list of things that were coming down. I had it pulled up, and apparently I replaced it with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny stuff. So I'm not going to go looking for it again. It's a lengthy list. Willow was probably the most notable, at least as far as what we're concerned about. I'm sure there were shows on there that were bigger than that. The Jeff Goldblum show that was on there. The
Kristen Bell show's coming down.
What else? There was another. The Mighty Ducks Game Changers, which season 1 was actually fun on great, that one. Yeah. Well, but the second season, I don't know what they did. I didn't watch it. It might be great, but Emilio Estevez wanted no part
Yeah.
of whatever the second season was and bailed on them. So I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, but why would you pull the whole thing down? Again, it's
Yeah, no, they've got a reason. I just don't know what it is. Now, look, it may be that it may be totally related to the strike. I still, like I said, I'm not going to pretend like I understand why those things are coming down. Like it very well could be residuals, but I don't understand how residuals work on a streaming service anyway.
yeah.
That's not usually where residuals come from. Is from being aired on TV, on the service that it was created for.
Yeah, and like you said, I imagine that probably, a lot of the issues that are involved in the strike um is likely to, there's a lot going on there, I think, probably below the surface. And honestly, probably a lot of it is pretty complicated.
Yeah.
Like it took me a minute to kind of figure out all the things going into the writer's strike, because like always, everyone always assumes that it's just we want more money.
Yeah. Well, I see. Joker Voice has a good point about the it's coming up due for Disney to finish buying out Hulu, and with the money loss, with losing cricket games in India and whatever else they all lost that knocked a big hole in them. They shouldn't have been in that business with Disney Plus anyway.
Yeah.
But they were, so they lost money on it. But I still don't understand. Like, I'm still confused about how pulling content off of Disney Plus that you already own saves money.
Yeah.
However, they let's see, what was Nicole saying?
A friend of mine that works at the network had made a post about AI and how that could affect things. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of conversations around AI. And
yeah, I mean, it's all about AI right now, and it's a big part of the writer's strike. It's a big part of the Screen Actors Guild strike. They're going to do everything they can to keep it out of the industry as much as possible. I mean, obviously, it's here. It's going to put a lot of people out of business. I'm transitioning to a new business because it's gonna destroy mine. The last 15 years, they've been data mining my work for 15, and every other appraiser in the country for the last 15 years, and they've got it all plugged into a system, and they're going to now plug it into an AI, and that's it. That's game over for me. I worked myself out of a job.
Yeah.
So, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming for a lot of different people, I think.
Yeah, and Joker, I know that they're deep in the hole over there. Let's see, Nick. Residuals on streaming are typically based on time, not on views. They may not want to pay because it's getting that's possible. Yeah, very much possible.
They're not paying for themselves, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, and that makes sense because most of what they pulled down was the kind of stuff you watch once and you peace out. Thank you, DB, for the happy birthday. So yeah, so I get it from there. Like, if they're not getting paid enough, you yank it down. Now that brings me to another part of the conversation I wanted to have, though. Like, why on earth are they leaving physical media off the table as a revenue stream? Now, some of what they're creating isn't good enough to make money with physical media. In fact, a lot of it hasn't been. I'll be honest about that. But I would buy Andor. Now, granted, we wouldn't. It's too early to release Andor, but the Mandalorian. But season 2 of the Mandalorian, it's been 3 years since season 2. Release those on physical media. Nobody's buying your streaming service just because of those shows. Every other streaming service is doing it. I don't get the leaving that income on the table. Let's see. So, so we got to get into our other topic, or we're going to not make it to dinner tonight. So,
it's true.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. I hope the strikes don't last long, but like,
me too, y'all. Like, there's still some stuff going on. Doesn't do me any good because there's not enough work to go around. But if the actors strike, we were talking about this. I was at a class, a CPR class that the union was sponsoring this weekend, and we were talking about the strike and all that. And one of the things we were talking about is just as viewers, we want things to come back. We don't want to just, we don't want to just sit here and watch reruns of, Big Brother for the foreseeable future, and there's only so much stuff imported from, a lot of they'll just start importing things from overseas. We'll start seeing a lot more BBC or, Korean things show up on streaming services. Yeah. But, it just is people who watch movies and TV shows and all of these things, how long this is going to slow things down. Like, this is probably going to slow things down for at least the next year, and that's if the actors don't strike. Yeah. I'm really concerned about how, after just finally getting things mostly back after COVID, how long that this is likely to drag out, getting new content on to watch,
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, and we're also, for us, it's also a concern of when will things crank back up here so you can go back to work.
Yes, obviously. I mean, that's my primary concern as somebody who works in movies, but also just as someone who watches movies.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this just fritter for the next year,
Yeah, and sadly, it looks like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, because and I think that probably a lot of projects that they started on before the strike are probably just going to die. Because there's so much that goes into it. I think a lot of people are just going to watch their dreams go up in smoke.
Well, you're also going to see, I mean, that was you were kind of talking to somebody about maybe working on one that's going ahead and filming here in the state. So there is one filming here in the state that I think is a Christopher Lloyd project. But the problem is it could just end right in the middle of filming.
Yeah. That's a very real possibility. So the thing is, though, it's not going to make things better. It's not going to. They're not going to be prioritizing what makes return on investment, because they're not going to be able to make anything because there will be no writers.
Well, I mean, I think what he's saying is that, like, when they come back, when this is over, they have to prioritize. Yeah. Now, I would love to agree with that, except and in principle, I agree with that. Like, economically, that's the way it works. Only Disney and a couple of other studios have kind of shown a propensity to just put their head in the sand and push forward with whatever they're doing. I mean, I would have thought COVID would have been the thing that made them go, okay, we have to just focus on things that are going to make money. And it didn't work out that way at all. So a lot of these studios have not recovered from COVID. And which is why you would think they would be more willing to sit down with the Writers Guild. But so far, they're not even really willing to talk.
Yeah. And so as far as striking for the Tonys, it's like any other awards show that's televised. All those skits and things. Nicole was talking. She said that she didn't think that they were gonna strike the Tony Awards show, but all of those, jokes and things that they write, those are all written by actors, by writers who are on strike right now.
Yeah.
So if it weren't televised, that would be a different animal, but because it is, it's probably going to change the dynamics of the Tonys, unfortunately, this year as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully, it'd really be nice if they could just come to an agreement and we could all just move on. That's what we just
well, I mean, like, I've seen the numbers that they put out, and they're going to, I mean, that's the thing, Nicole, like these people don't think about this, but these unions, the unions for movie and TV are often the same as the ones in, work, for the theatrical productions. It's all the same unions.
IATSE is technically the International Theater Alliance of Theatrical and Stage workers.
Yeah.
So it originally started out as a stage workers union and kind of has carried over into TV as well.
I'm curious to see some things from Pat GPT.
Yeah, that could be interesting. It could.
Well, you weren't here for that the other night.
I'm just envisioning.
But yeah, let's so we got to go. I've got to go to my birthday dinner here in a bit. So
where are we going for birthday dinner, by the way?
Rue.
Okay.
That's I mean,
it's the good restaurant in town.
We got lots of good restaurants in town.
Okay, it's the good restaurant in town that won't bankrupt us to all go to.
So yeah, for our big topic, we did want to talk Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes. You'll have to forgive us. We tried twice to have this conversation. So it's been almost 2 weeks since we saw the movie. Now we're going to talk about it.
We watched a recap.
Typically, I like to see a movie twice before I talk about it, and I will keep complaining about this until I die or until they give me a theater. But our theater shut down because of COVID, and we still don't have one back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
You're 100% right.
This is new media.
Yep.
Really exploded during the previous writer's strike, and it's going to again if this drags out for a year.
I mean, honestly,
hey, we should actually me and Robbie should finish writing
your project.
Just a little background on that. My brother and a friend and I have been working on a I don't even know what to call it, but it's a YouTube show based on, it's sort of a mash-up of Parks and Rec and the Sasquatch hunting show, but with Ewoks.
Yes.
And so maybe we'll have to actually film that.
You shouldn't say that on the internet, love. Someone might steal your brilliant idea.
Don't do it, Nicole. Don't do it. Charles, don't steal it. You and Pat. But you can bring Pat over to play an Ewok.
I was going to say, you could just come and join in the fun. Yeah, everyone's officially invited to come be on our Ewok show.
Cam has already requested to voice the Ewok.
Yes, please. He's not that far away.
No, he's not.
He's in driving distance. Awesome. Yeah, so maybe we'll have to get us a Red 5 like YouTube, get some kind of capitalize on this lack of information going, this lack of not information, this lack of content on all the streaming services, and get some stuff out on the Red 5 YouTube channel. That seems like the thing to do.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. I wanted to look at one thing real quick before we get going here, but I don't actually see what I was looking for.
Domestic, is that the top?
Yeah, I wanted domestic. I don't want total.
Oh, yeah, at the bottom, at the very bottom.
That wasn't a total. That was China.
Oh, it's a big number.
Oh, here it is.
All right, worldwide, Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's closing in on 700 million. So I don't know what the. All right, so yeah, sorry, we just totally checked out for a second there. I saw that Joker was talking about it not turning a profit. It's going to be close. It's going to be very close. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. I don't want to go look it up while we're on the air. I didn't look to see what the budget of it was, but the it's closing in on 700 million globally, so it'll probably make a little money, but probably not as much as they hope. Thank you, Matt, and thanks for dropping in. Let's see. Pat should be an Ewok. Yes, yeah. Pat can definitely show up and be an Ewok. It's going to be interesting to see where they go. I agree. This is the best post-Endgame film. It's actually better than some Phase 3 movies.
Yeah. It really is a shame that it didn't make it. Well, I guess I need to say that in the chat. I'll just say it here. It really is a shame that it didn't make as much money as projected.
Hey, it's doing. I mean, its opening night was low, but I mean, like, $700 million is nothing to scoff at. Like, we're still in a world where not that many movies have crossed the $1 billion mark. Mm-hmm. Now, Chris Pratt's other movie that we saw the same day we saw Guardians, I believe did pass $1 billion.
That movie's had been out 2 weeks longer than Guardians too, though.
No, I'm not talking about. I mean, just talking about total. It passed $1 billion. I mean,
Okay,
I'm not.
yeah.
I'm just.
Well, hopefully Guardians will by the time it's all done. But I know Little Mermaid came out this week, and
If they will leave it in theaters long enough over the
Yeah.
summer,
hmm
then it will probably. It might. Yeah. So it needs 800 million to break even. That sounds about right.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to be close. I don't. Yeah, it started off terribly, but I think people have. It's one of those. I think people let the suckers go see it first.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, that was fair. After Phase 4, even though I like some of the Phase 4 movies, they're not as good as previous Marvel fare. And they're so yeah, it's completely fair that we didn't all run out and see it first. But yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be hard for it to make another $100 million at this point.
Yeah.
Especially since they're still taking things out of the theater too quickly. This is a good summer action flick. If they would just leave it for a little while, it would make it. But
yeah,
the turn time to streaming is so fast now, and the physical media is so fast that yeah, they probably won't leave it. It will. It'll
because they got to jerk it over to Disney Plus in
2
months.
Well, that's still all part of the COVID effect. It screwed everything up.
Yeah.
But anyway, what did you think about the movie?
Hey, DB's heading out.
Oh, did he say he was leaving?
Yeah, he said good night, everyone.
Oh, have fun, DB. Good night. I missed that.
No, it's hard to watch all the things. That's what I'm for, just to cover the things that you miss in life.
I would actually be really interested in chatting with you at some point, Nick, about what you didn't like about the first 2 Guardians movies. The first one is one of my favorites. It's the most pure sci-fi films in the MCU. We have a lot of movies with sci-fi elements, but not really just purely sci-fi flicks. There are some. But
yeah, it's definitely Guardians is definitely its own thing in the MCU. It's kind of got a unique flavor, I think, kind of in the same way that Ant-Man is kind of a unique thing.
Yeah, I mean the first Ant-Man, I love the first Ant-Man movie, but yeah, it's a particular kind of humor. It's kind of like when David and I went to see Hot Fuzz in the theater when people in this country had still really not seen Shaun of the Dead. It wasn't that well known, and so nobody knew it's this Hot Fuzz movie. What to make of this Hot Fuzz movie. And David and I went to see it, and we were like, me and David are sitting in the theater like dying laughing, and everybody was just looking at us like we had lost our minds. Takes us, it's a certain kind of humor, and it's not going to appeal to everybody, and everything doesn't have to appeal to everybody. That's we get caught up in that sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Everything isn't for everybody, which is
fair. Matt, I actually really disagree with that. I think that I hated Guardians 2 when it first came out.
Yeah.
Now after rewatching it, it has grown on me, but Guardians 2 stepped all over every serious moment with a bad joke. The joke, it wasn't just that it was a joke. They weren't just stepping on the serious moments with jokes. They were stepping on the serious moments with jokes that didn't land.
Yeah.
So actually,
I did enjoy it more watching it. We watched it again right before Volume 3 came out, and it definitely. I feel like James Gunn does good with the. His movies kind of tend to have heart. At least his Guardians movies do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing he's good at.
And actually, we were kind of discussing this recently, JB. And actually, I was having this discussion with one of my kids about the we're now, it's like, okay, in order to watch a Marvel movie, you have to have seen all the 27 movies that preceded it. And I hear people talking about superhero fatigue, And honestly, I wonder if it's not really as much that as it is people are getting a little bit tired
well,
of
people don't want to go and see a movie that they haven't seen the prerequisites for.
And also, if they sometimes, if you know, like this has been going on for 11 years, you may have forgotten something that happened in one of those movies all those years ago. And so, if you're watching movies that are heavily dependent on everything that came before it, I think that they may need to start making things stand alone a little bit better, where you don't have to have everything so tied together where you can't watch, you can't watch the new thing without having seen everything for the past 10 years.
Yeah, so I think there's some of that, and then there's some of this, like it's people, and I say this over and over and over again, like it's people say, oh, superhero fatigue is finally settling in. It's like people don't get tired of good stories,
right? They just, if you've run out of ways to tell those stories in new and creative ways, then that's when people start to get tired of them.
Yeah, well, they've taken chance on oh, thanks Charles, thanks for hanging out, and I will have something very good to eat.
It'll be steak.
Probably something that's not very good for me, but I'm gonna eat it anyway.
I'll have steak for Andrew's birthday dinner. Happy birthday to him.
So let's see. But yeah, I agree, Joker. That's the best villain we've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that people just don't. I mean, Phase 4 has some good movies, but really more good moments. Not a lot of great movies.
Yeah, it's kind of got its like you said, it's got its moments, but it's definitely had a lot of misses this and prior to
also
Phase
just
4,
the overall tone. You had a whole phase. You had a whole phase of this franchise that's all very like melancholy. It's all about dealing with the death and the loss of Phase 3. And it's like doing that for a whole phase might have been a bit much. Like maybe we just like wallowed in that for too long.
So I like Nick's descriptor here.
Yeah.
Universe fatigue.
Yeah.
And it's not just because we were kind of talking to the kids and I were talking about that it's not just Marvel. A lot of other things have decided, that because everybody wants the cinematic universe. But it was Star Wars we were talking about. Okay, so in order to watch The Mandalorian, you have to watch this and this and this and this. You have to watch all the, not just all the movies, but the TV shows and the, it's a lot. And I think that casual fans get tired of that. Some of us are going to watch all the Marvel movies and all of the Star Wars movies at this point.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just like The Mandalorian. And so whenever they showed up and Baby Yoda's back, well then like, what the hell? We just spent the whole last season, finding Baby Yoda his people.
Right.
So I think that in the effort to emulate the success of the MCU, I think that a lot of people are kind of these interconnected universes. They're only sustainable for so long before it becomes too much content.
I think that it's just like I'm all for a connected universe, and I'm all for. I mean, Disney or not Disney, rather Lucasfilm, the expanded universe books. I mean, they ran a connected universe of books for a very long time. It's doable, but I think maybe it's too connected.
Yeah.
Like there are connections between the Guardians and the other stuff.
Yeah.
But they're kind of loose connections and they really don't affect each other.
And that I think is the trick.
So as we move away, and of course we're fixing to start moving back towards a big team up. But like we have an opportunity with we're going to slowly start introducing the X-Men. We got Fantastic Four. We're doing stuff in the cosmic universe. We're doing stuff on Earth. Maybe kind of let those things all sort of evolve into their own things that where we can build this connected universe where there's loose threads, but these people do their own thing. We don't have to tie them to the big story. I mean, that's one of the things we can talk about real quick with this. I think one of the big challenges of this movie, now James Gunn has said that he was consulting on basically everything Marvel after the first Guardians movie.
Yeah.
But like, and so he consulted on Endgame. He knew they were going to kill Gamora off. But he could have handled it really, really poorly in this movie.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He really handled it way better than I expected them to. I love the theory that, I don't even remember who said it, but I love the theory that in the holiday special, having Nebula steal Bucky's arm was just him giving some other writer something to have to deal with, which is fun because that's like comic book writers have done that to each other for years.
Yeah.
Let's see. It got sent to its release date in November to die. Yeah. Right. Yes, Nick, that's a very good point. Like you can make these things and they can be related to each other and exist in the same universe, but they don't have to be tied together. I've been saying that about a number of franchises out there for a while. It's like, well, how do you do this franchise without so-and-so? It's like, branch out, tell a different story. You can exist in the same universe. It's like right now they're talking about doing an X-Files reboot. I can't believe they're going to do an X-Files reboot. And when you lead with Ron Coogler doing a diverse X-Files reboot, it's like, don't lead with that. Like, why would you lead with that? It's like you immediately turned me off from having any interest in that. And I'm a huge X-Files fan. I'll tell you that the X-Files is one of the greatest sci-fi series like ever made, maybe top 5.
It's often not a good sign whenever that's the only thing they want to talk about, whenever they decide to reboot something. Now, I mean, sometimes it's something that I've turned out to really enjoy. I really enjoyed Rings of Power, but they should have started the dialogue.
Well, but they did that with Eternals too. Like we did that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the.
And Eternals, I did not enjoy.
Yeah, no, Eternals is
all they wanted to talk about. All they wanted to talk about was the sex scene and the diversity for Eternals. That's all they wanted to talk about.
And because there was nothing else to talk about.
And how it was the best thing the MCU had ever put out.
Yeah.
This was their award bait or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was, I get it. Like they thought they had this big thing. They really pushed it, but honestly, why would you? Well, I mean, the Hunger Games thing is going to be the biggest bomb of the season. Like that's going to be an absolute garbage movie. Dune, on the other hand, is a huge problem for the Marvels. Dune is going to be a huge problem for anything that releases around it, frankly. They're picking up steam there. I have zero expectations for that Hunger Games movie. The Hunger Games franchise made one good movie.
I enjoyed the Hunger Games movies, but that book was not well liked.
That's what I'm saying. There's no fan base for this story.
Yeah.
The Hunger Games fan base rejected this story when it came out in book form.
The Hunger Games, like I know people who are diehard Hunger Games fans who like literally bought the book on Audible and like returned it because it was just like, I'm not ever listening to this again. People with, hundreds of titles in their Audible library who re-listen to things, numerous times, but not that. It was like, oh, that was a crap book.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they're making a movie. I don't know. Maybe the movie will be way better than the book.
Yeah, I mean, if the budget's low enough, it'll probably make money. Maybe. It's in a bad time of year.
Yep. The Eternals literally saved lives. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Well, the Eternals was advertising on this is what we're going to say all about. We're going to tell you how great the Eternals is because it's this and it's that. And it turns out that was literally all it was. There was nothing else to talk about.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot of big hopes that were just I wanted it to be good, and it just was flat. I think there are some promising characters hidden in there, but the story, it's boring.
Yeah.
It's the most boring movie in the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, there are worse movies overall, but it's the worst.
I mean, a stellar cast. A phenomenal cast. But,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, especially Joker Voice, since the Ant-Man was Ant-Man's kind of been one of those niche characters in the MCU, but I think generally speaking more well liked than the first Captain Marvel movie. I don't think there's anything in the MCU that's quite gotten the been met with the vitriol of the first Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, no, it was
well, your hero acts like a villain the whole movie.
Yeah, she wasn't very.
I mean, she doesn't do villainous things, but like the way she approaches things is the way a villain approaches things, not the way a hero approaches things. Right. And that kind of made a mess out of that.
Yeah. It's gonna be
but let's talk real quick because we only got about 10 minutes before we got to get out of here. So
all right, Guardians.
And we will obviously at this point have to have a second Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe we'll just wait till it comes out on something where we can watch it again and talk about it in more detail.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the movie itself.
Let's talk themes.
Well, themes. I mean, like the villain. We've got a terrific villain.
Yeah.
We have a villain. I've seen some people saying, "Oh, this movie's anti-God," and coming from James Gunn, that wouldn't like. When I heard people saying that before I saw it, I was like, "Well, it's James Gunn. That's possible."
Yeah.
But I didn't really believe it. Now, the villain is anti-God, and this is something people seem to really. Thank you, Joker Voice, and thank you very much for hanging out with us for a bit. This happened with the sequel trilogy, right? And a couple other things where we've had the villain say something, kill the past, what is it?
Let the past die, kill it if you have to.
And so it's like, that's the villain's mantra. That's not the theme of the movie unless the villain wins.
Right. Unless
the villain is our main character and wins, then that's not our theme. It's the theme our heroes are pushing against. And so this idea of, and this isn't even the theme, it's maybe the theme for this character. There is no God coming from the villain in this movie, and that there is no God, so I'm going to do it myself.
Right.
That's a typical God complex issue. So as far as being, now, of course, filmmakers, atheists, or agnostic or completely irreligious people tend to try to make movies. It's like I always go back to the guy that made the Narnia movie,
Andrew Adamson,
very anti-Christian atheist, making a Narnia movie, right? Like one of the most Christian fantasy books ever written, maybe you got that, and you've got what's the John Bunyan book?
Oh, Pilgrim's Progress.
Pilgrim's Progress.
I mean, Pilgrim's Progress is a straight up allegory, though.
It is, but it's sort of genre
relevant,
adjacent.
Adjacent, I like that. Yeah.
So he says, "Well, I'm going to make this movie, and I'm going to basically strip the Christian themes out of it," and it ends up being one of the most Christian movies ever made. Because he didn't even understand the themes.
Right.
And he did them remarkably well. If you told me a Christian studio made that movie, I'd believe you. Yeah. And so you get, one of the things we love about things like superhero movies and Star Wars is people who view the world through a faith-based lens
Mm-hmm.
is that it reflects character traits and other things that are important to us. And one of those being, the willingness to lay your life down for other people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things in this, like, nobody dies, nobody ends up dying in the end. Spoilers, sorry. But what we do get is we get every one of our characters that is willing to make the sacrifice play.
Yeah. And there were moments because there was
there were times
somebody was going to die.
Right.
I was like, oh
there's
no,
at least
oh no, it's oh wait a minute, it's like
there were at least 4 times where I went, oh God, that's the character that's going to die. They didn't, but it was all in moments of making the sacrifice for their friends.
Which honestly was the like subversive anti-subversion, that nobody actually died, because they that's always.
Well, no, I mean, we've been talking about someone dying in this movie for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, they almost they acted like they let us believe that.
Yeah.
And then used it to jerk us around during the movie. I think the themes for these characters, these characters are broken misfits. Opening with the song "Creep" was an absolute moment of brilliance. That song fits these characters to a T. They are misfits that don't belong. They don't understand why they're where they are. They don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Right. That's how they see the world that they're in. That they've got these things and they don't deserve what they've got. I mean, Quill's not quite at that point, and Quill is still mourning Gamora pretty heavily at the beginning of this. But we came full circle with so many of these characters of them not only saying, okay, maybe I do belong here, but like, just fully embracing that.
Yes.
That they do deserve more.
And honestly, I feel like it's an important step when you have trauma in your past, is to be able to acknowledge that it's part of what made you who you are, but it is not who you are.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of something that people have been sort of coming to, and some of them I feel like never really acknowledged that they're, like, I'm not a raccoon.
Yeah. And look,
and some of them just felt like they were completely broken, and so they've been coming at it from different perspectives, but they finally, I think, have reached a point where they're willing to let their past be what it was, and acknowledge what it was, and not let it define everything, and then going forward.
No, and I think that's one why this movie may not appeal to everybody, because they don't know that everybody will relate to that sort of trauma.
I mean,
everybody's got some trauma in their background, but like
things, and
like I relate very strongly to these characters after this movie. I have, obviously different trauma, but like real severe family trauma.
Yeah.
And like, spending a lot of time, and then you go through that, and you have these moments where you go where good things start to happen. You go, why? Or when's somebody going to take it away? Like, yeah, it's good right now, but somebody's going to snatch it away any minute.
Absolutely.
That's a trauma that I've dealt with for a long time in my life.
And that's something we've talked about a lot. Just kind of dealing with our own stuff, is like feeling like even when it's great, it's like, all right, when's the other shoe going to drop?
Right.
And that's where they are when we find them on Nowhere.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it's gonna.
Yeah, no, that's just it. I mean, they're waiting for it to, they've got this thing, good things have happened, they don't really deserve it, and something's going to ruin it any minute. And then when the thing comes along, they don't let it ruin it.
Right.
Rocket's story is, it becomes, you get this moment, you finally, Rocket is the main character. Like, him and Quill, like, their stories are very parallel in different ways. But all of them have trauma, like Nebula, a character that I never really thought would become a central character to this story. Is they're dealing with her trauma as well. I mean, like real physical trauma and emotional trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love this movie. Like this.
Yeah.
I think this is better than Guardians 2. I would say I would still give the edge to Guardians 1. Guardians 1 is just so good. Like Guardians 1 like cleared a hurdle that nobody thought it could clear. Nobody outside of Marvel Studios expected that movie to succeed.
Yeah.
And
it was back in the golden days whenever all they did was win.
Yeah. But yeah, because when they were putting this out, it was like, man, they're taking a big chance. Like this could be it. This could be the one that just totally, completely tanks. And we've had movies that have tanked. And like I said, there are Phase 4 movies that I like to varying degrees. A lot of them I like. There are moments in most of those movies that I can look at and go, I really, really like that. But they mostly fall towards the lower. When I rank the movies, they mostly fall towards the lower middle part of the pack. I honestly think, and Uvaldo is saying, reading my mind here, it's a really, really great trilogy. It's one of the great. It's going to wind up being one of the great sci-fi trilogies when the MCU is long gone and not a thing anymore. This on its own will be held up as a really, really great science fiction trilogy that's more than just throwaway action. It has heart and it has great characters who all experience really, really great character arcs.
And has Kurt Russell that middle installation.
I don't know. I think that we have several trilogies in the MCU. We have the Captain America trilogy. We have the Iron Man trilogy. What other trilogy? There's the Ant-Man trilogy. I love the Ant-Man trilogy, but I think Quantumania is a bit of a. It's just kind of messy.
And I enjoyed it.
No, I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it again. It's different than the first two though. It's like you have the first two and that are like they're a little more smaller and personal, and then you like go do the big huge thing. It's just different. I almost liked it better when it was smaller. So I don't know. What other? Oh, thank you, Michelle, and thanks for dropping in. But as far as the trilogies go, it's really okay. So it's really, really hard to beat the Captain America trilogy, right? But it's almost not fair.
Yeah.
The first movie is a good character introduction.
I think that's probably still my favorite Marvel movie. Is the first Captain America movie.
Really? I mean, Winter Soldier is far and away my favorite movie. I still think Winter Soldier, top to bottom, is the best movie in the MCU. And that first Captain America movie has a lot of heart. It's a really good story. What I love about the first Captain America movie was they did the opposite of what DC did with Superman, where DC looked at Superman and said, we've got to kind of modernize Superman, make him a little grittier. Well, thank you for taking a second to drop in, and I appreciate it. But it was dark. You know, DC looked at Superman and said, let's make him more modern and a little darker, give him an edge. Where Marvel looked at, and they actually like used the line at some point. It's like maybe what we need right now, and they used it in the second movie, I think, in Winter Soldier. Maybe what we need right now is a little old-fashioned, and they went for it. They said, let's just do 1940s Captain America. Let's just do it.
Yep, straight up. Punch Hitler in the face.
Yeah, and it worked. The second movie is it's just a great movie. The Winter Soldier is phenomenal. Yeah. But it's almost not fair to call his third movie the third act of a trilogy or third part of a trilogy, because it's it's a secret Avengers movie, right? It's just
100. I don't think of it as a Captain America movie. I think of it as an 100%.
So because of that, I do think those three movies are overall better than Guardians. But Guardians is a pure trilogy with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Full arc and great closure.
I think it's the best by itself. Like unconnected to anything else that comes 100%.
So I ran a poll on Twitter a few weeks ago, and of course Captain America won it, and there is a reason for that. But in my opinion, this is the best trilogy in the MCU.
That's fair.
There's I know I got a little bit of flag. I don't remember who it was for not including Thor. Thor, you could say it's a quadrilogy now, but actually that's not the way I see Thor. I see Thor as two
groups of two.
Two groups of two. The first two movies are decidedly different than the second two.
Yes, absolutely.
I get that. I'm not going to argue with anybody that says the first one is their favorite of the lot, because it's a very good movie. I like what they went for in that second one. Let's see what else we got to talk about before we get out of here. Any other things? Because we really need to wrap in like the next 3 or 4 minutes here if we're going to go to dinner. So I'm very happy with where these characters end up. I don't know if we will ever see the Guardians again, the new Guardians.
I think we'll see some of them show up in other things.
We'll certainly see Adam Warlock. That's another thing. I know some people are a little upset that, they put Adam Warlock in this movie and then didn't do anything with him. But I actually kind of glad they didn't do a lot with him, because, and I heard James Gunn talking about this. He said, we teased this way back in the first movie and then showed the, no, Guardians is just 3 movies, right?
This is volume 3.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we teased it 100 years ago.
We teased it. So they followed through and did it, introduced the character, because just Chekhov's gun. You have to. You can't end this and not give us this character. But I love that they gave us Adam Warlock, but that James Gunn was willing to say, finishing my character stories that I've been on this journey with is more important than letting Adam Warlock overshadow it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that. And I'd be curious to know what y'all didn't like about Adam Warlock. I actually think that they went the smart route. Like he's childlike.
Yeah.
Which is correct. They did the right thing there. If he had stayed in his pod long enough to fully mature, then he could never become a hero.
Yeah.
But this version of Adam Warlock, we have a moment where he kills something or something happens and he says, I don't like the way that makes me feel.
Yeah.
And he's learning like a child.
Right.
And now he's not with the people who would have corrupted him anymore.
Right.
And so we have to see him grow into the hero. He's not right now. He's basically a child with the power of a god almost.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't have any problems with the way they portrayed him, mostly because I'm very happy, like I said, that they didn't let him, it didn't become his movie.
Yeah.
That we really stayed with our core characters and we let Quill and Rocket have their big moments.
Yeah. I think that's important. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
This is a really valid point. Like, this is the struggle right now, right? Like, we killed off. Now, granted, we killed off in the MCU. Iron Man is certainly an A-lister, but in the scope of comic books, he's a C-lister.
Yeah.
Like, and when you look at comics pre-MCU, there are way bigger Marvel characters. Like, I think this is the advantage Marvel has right now, is that they're just taking too long to execute this. But we haven't even touched the X-Men yet. We've got some huge A-list characters to go. But honestly, the question that you're asking, if DC had the same run and killed off Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman, you're killing off your big four, really. Like, I don't know where you go. I mean, you have a ton of characters. You have a ton of really good characters in DC. I'm not as versed in DC, but like, I just can't imagine a DC universe where Superman or Batman aren't there. Like, that's really hard for me to envision. You know, envisioning an MCU with, or, you know, an MCU where Tony Stark is dead is a totally different question than is Superman dead to me. Like,
oh yeah, I think so.
Because Superman and Batman are DC. It's almost the problem that Disney had, that Marvel had when they couldn't use Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, Marvel without Spider-Man, what is this?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited to see where things are going, but we do have to wrap up and get to my birthday dinner. Oh, Isaac, thank you very much. If you're still in here, thank you very much for the happy birthday wish. And the Streamlabs,
it's being
the Streamlabs bot can just shove it if it doesn't want people to tell me happy birthday in all caps. I appreciate it.
Let's see, somebody else came in and told you happy birthday too. I missed it though. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Happy birthday! All the happy birthday.
Oh, thank you for the happy birthday. I appreciate everybody that has dropped in, and we're going to bounce out of here and go to my birthday dinner before everything around here starts closing up for the night.
Right.
But thank you so much to everybody that dropped into the chat tonight. We actually had a really good crowd, bigger crowd than I expected, especially given that there was no promotion for this. We just decided to do it.
It's true. We knew we wanted to do it at some point today. This is literally the only thing Andrew wanted to do on his birthday was live stream. So here we are, because who's a sweet boy? That's right.
I have to point at you while I'm looking at you, because otherwise I could end up pointing at the window over there. Very confusing.
Yeah. She's not a mirror.
No, Isaac, don't worry about the caps. Streamlabs is just being rude about the caps. I'm going to have to go adjust that, though, because that's not long enough of a thing for it to get upset with somebody about using all caps. So I'm going to have to figure out how to adjust that. I have it set where I didn't want somebody posting a wall of text that was all caps. It shouldn't be doing that to somebody posting 2 words. But I'm still learning the system over here. But thanks for everybody checking, for dropping in, checking this out. We will probably talk more about this movie, because I think there are some really good themes that I want to get into deeper.
Maybe David's computer is working again.
Maybe
we'll get on.
Maybe.
Sounds like a plan.
But yeah, thanks for hanging out. We will be back later.
Later this week.
We'll
only Monday, right?
It's only Monday, so we'll be back. We'll probably be back for a Coruscant Radio Underground live stream later this week. Actually, I think we've got some stuff planned we need to talk about over there. So that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you again for everybody that dropped in and that wished me a happy birthday. Everybody have a good night. Until next time, may the force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.